Boom. First round review of the night. Going to be TSM versus Cloud9. Definitely a intriguing series to review. One of my first series I reviewed as people are losing their mind about light mode on this channel was, of course, the semifinals of LCS Spring, where the man on your screen put in a legendary performance. This was, in fact, Bjergsen's playground back at that semifinal. His Akali game will never be forgotten. But what's happened since then for TSM and C9? We reviewed C9 last week. We haven't reviewed as much TSM, just the single game so far. I think they're another team that's kind of been working this stuff out with two different rosters. You look at the numbers for TSM, goal difference of 15. Now they've played Sona games, so this is not the most relevant stat. And the reason why I opened up stats is, not the most sample size. So why even look at them? Well, mostly because we're definitely in a time where I feel like stats are super overused in broadcast, especially the LCK broadcast, where every featured matchup needs to use stats from like this hilariously small sample size. And they're trying to find a stat to make something interesting, but there isn't probably the same person there who's saying like, hey, like this stat is misleading. The goal difference of 15, that doesn't mean they're a bad early game team because they're playing Sona Tarek. The CS differential doesn't mean anything. The tower differential is kind of relevant, but actually it's pretty low for if you're going to play multiple Sona Tarek games. So it's very, very misleading looking at stats right now before things start to kind of shake out in more games. Like blue and red sides equal. Champ pools can be interesting, but two Sona games and two Sona Tarek games is very, very relevant. Fact that both Grig and Acadian have been playing. Like, for example, what does this mean? Acadian has 90% kill participation. Grig has 60% kill participation. The jungler is the one that ganks a lot of people. Does that mean that Acadian's just better than Grig? Unfortunately, this is what happens when you have small sample sizes. You end up in very interesting spots where you don't necessarily learn too much. I think eye test-wise, people have been a lot happier with what Grig has put out. And like the KDA, like it doesn't really matter if he has low KDA if he's getting all that kill participation, right? Yeah. Thing that I think kill participation is always one of those tricky ones because, like, well, if there isn't any kills and they get rolled over and you have 100%, it looks nice when you look at numbers, but like this is impressive, right? This tells you something. This is the stat here that is meaningful. Sven and Smoothie have 85% to 83% kill participation over playing all the games. What does that tell you? Does that mean they're the best on the team? No. It tells you that largely TSM have had to win their games through team fighting. Like that's a pretty high number. It tells you that they're team fighting with these duos. And if you notice, everyone else has low kill participation. So this basically tells you, like, you should be able to look at this. I think most of them, I can just ask the viewers, right? What does the kill participation chart tell you about TSM's playstyle? Like, what does this spread tell you? Like, what does it tell you? It does tell you something about how they play. Playing around bot is kind of true, but what it is telling you here is they play a lot of 1-3-1, and then they need to team fight to win the game. They don't close it out without a 1-3-1, with just the 1-3-1. Because if you just split the game to hell, these two people just wave clear. Their kill participation is also not going to be particularly high, and you just have like 3 kills in the top lane, you win because of those 3 kills top. If the jungler and both solo laners have 50% kill participation, it tells you that they've been 1-3-1ing a lot, and they haven't been necessarily team fighting till the end, but they're not super bloody games through the 1-3-1. They're like priorities, and then they finish the game with a fight. Like it finishes with a lot of the kills happening here. So that's just basically what these number patterns tell you. That's the only interesting stat through 6 games where I look at that and I'm like, this means something. But don't let the other numbers like draw your attention. It's something that's been playing on my mind because a lot of people are talking about stats right now. And I, for one, look at and prep stats a lot less until there's a lot more games. See if we can take anything away from Cloud9. Numbers are a bit stronger, but they've also played 2 storied games, so perhaps that means the early game in general is a little bit powerful, or more powerful than you think. First tower rate's quite low. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's something to note. Overall, their stat profile is a little bit better. Blue side win rate here is a little bit interesting because we've seen this profile in Korea, right? You think of SKT have a 0% win rate on red side so far. But I feel like blue side is in a really strong place of power. Maybe we can talk about it in Champ Select to illustrate an example of why blue side feels really good at the moment. In terms of lineup, Blabber played a game, which was notable over the weekend. I saw that during the breakdown, but I didn't actually watch the game that he played. From there, champ pool-wise, profile pretty similar when it comes to kind of the Sonataric priority between TSM and C9. Mid lane different. The 2 Yasuo games, and I think Yasuo Gragas is something we'll end up talking about today. I haven't seen this VOD, by the way, to be clear. And then, yeah, otherwise, quite a lot of overlap between the teams. So, what did the game look like? The answer, I do not know. I have not watched this game just yet. I have very little info on what happened here, apart from people telling me that Bjergsen popped. So, let's pop on VOD review number 1 of the week. TSM versus C9. Let's have a look at bans. We'll leave Reaper up on the screen. Friend of the channel, Reaper, has been on here chatting in the Twitch chat before. So blue side bans. Blue side Yuumi ban. Not wanting to give away a Yuumi duo lane. Yuumi's in a really interesting spot where some teams are able to abuse how strong Yuumi duo lanes are. But it feels like you have to pick the Yuumi duo lane together on the red side. Because you kind of have to take it first round, right? It's very unlikely to come out second round. And you can't counterpick Yuumi support because people will just blind ban it. There's not enough champions to push out a Yuumi ban for second round. So if you first pick it, teams are getting really good at counter-picking Yuumi lanes. My favorite so far was Genji going Gragas Yasuo. I think a lot of Lux lanes beat Yuumi lanes. I think Sona can be used against Yuumi lanes. And if you first pick the Yuumi, I feel like the enemy picks a duo, and then you just often won't have enough resources to get a winning 2v2 with the Yuumi pick that you first picked. So then you just don't win lane as Yuumi, and then the Yuumi just kind of sucks if you don't win lane. From behind, with no map control, Yuumi's much harder to use. But on the red side, when you can pick 2 picks at the same time, you can take something like Lucian Yuumi. That was probably the strongest we've seen over in Korea. I know in other regions, other things like Ezreal Yuumi has worked, but in Korea, that duo hasn't worked. So, hey, Reaper, see, look, Reaper's in the chat. How did you know, Reaper? You knew to come in here while you're on screen. So I feel like Yuumi does fall into being a blue side ban because you don't want to first pick it, but you don't want them to first rotation at red side with the AD carry. So it's kind of just a weird quirk of the ban system right now. From there, the Rise ban, very, very standard, the Aatrox ban. Aatrox blue side ban for TSM. Aatrox is really intriguing me because I came in talking about how overrated Aatrox was, and I think we've seen teams who don't know how to play Aatrox lose with Aatrox, even though Aatrox is at a good power level, because they try to play it like old Aatrox. And we've seen, I'm sure in every region, so many team fights where the Aatrox teleports in as if it's old Aatrox and then just ints and dies first. And I just sit there like, Literally like the Twitch emote, not like this, being like, okay, like it's not the same Aatrox. Do not late teleport into the backline 1v4. Like, it just doesn't work. Do not do it. Aatrox is really good at skirmishes from ahead and really good at team fights when they're coordinated, but holy moly, some of those Aatrox plays, which should get better over time. And Aatrox win rate in Korea has been picking up over time from teams working out how to skirmish with it, teams choosing the right team fights for it. He's not the old Aatrox, but he's still powerful. Cloud9 bans so far. They ban away Sonatark. Both teams have been playing it. Sejuani bans, I'm really happy to see. Like, Korea somehow knew straight away that Sejuani was first pick, first ban, which surprised me that Korea was actually ahead of how insanely powerful Sejuani is right now. And also the melee laners that look even stronger with Sejuani now that she's been found out a little bit more. So I'm happy to see kind of week 2, week 3, whether it's LEC or LCS teams banning away the Sejuani. A lot of the counter picks aren't working. Even Trundle is struggling, and so is... If Ning is losing on the Kayn against Sejuani and Trundle isn't working reliably, then Sejuani is just too strong. So that's what people are seeing. So we zoom through. Final ban, Olaf. NA Olaf. You know, we sat here and we memed. We memed. So at some point, your memes become dreams. So what we're going to have to do is have a sobering moment on the stream. It's going to be called out now. Shout out to NA Olaf. But let's get in there. Tournaments. Let's talk about KR Olaf. KR Olaf is not performing. Let's see if we're completely up to date. All right, we got all the games completely up to date. Shout out to Games of Legends. It's not going to be a high win rate. Let's check it out. Oh, we're 18% over in Korea. 16 picks, 18% win rate. That's it's not a high win rate. That's not a high win rate. KR Olaf is it's not doing well. Now, Marang's played a lot of games of it, but he has one of the wins, so we can't completely point to him as the reason that KR Olaf is falling away. Does anyone have an undefeated Olaf? Ooh, Dread's Olaf. 1 to respect. 1-0. Tarzan. Nope, 1-1. Only Dread is a holdout, sadly. And people in the chat are talking about how it was against Olaf. Sorry, against Urgot, which obviously a pretty non-standard matchup. Let it be known, I think Olaf is really strong at the moment. Like, I think Warrior Olaf is super, super strong. Korean teams just don't know how to play around it, and they've been scrimming Chinese teams and then just auto-including it, thinking it's going to work like it did in their scrims. NA Olaf, we should give him a shout-out. He's a working-class man. Gotta find LCS. Why is this so hard? I keep looking for NA, but not finding it. NA Olaf, where's he at? There he is. Look at this. Shout out to the working class man. NA Olaf is the Dusty Rhodes. He worked super hard. He brought up his power level, 67% win rate. In the regular season, NA Olaf had 0 victories in spring season. NA Olaf, suddenly great. So shout out to NA Olaf. If you're wondering where your lulls can be found, it's NA Pike. NA Pike is, in fact, the champion that now should be laughed at. So if you need a replacement for NA Olaf, it's NA Pike. NA Pike is just awful. So, Reaper, if you're still in chat, it's on you. If it's not you, how are we ever going to get this Pike win rate up? So, someone's got to do it. Olaf has worked hard. He's power leveled. It's some Dragon Ball Z shit. He's there, but the Pike is a problem. So, get the Pike win rate up. You got Licorice on your team. There's no excuses. Licorice can definitely win on top lane Pike. Look at Trundle, PapaSmithy. Okay, I'll do it for you. How's my boy Trundle doing? Where is Trundle? There he is. Oh, 45%. See, it's doing all right. 100%? Damn. NA Trundle. NA Trundle's looking hot. I like what Trundle's doing this season. His ensemble's just working out, you know? Like, nice. It's really got it going on. And look at his opponent. It's Sejuani every time. So, the Smork play is clearly working in an A. Nice to know. We haven't been able to get there in Korea. We're not quite there yet. But just wanted to give our shout-outs before we get further into the draft. All right, so first pick Silas, no surprise. On the blue side, with Sejuani gone, I don't think any champion trumps Silas on patch 911. Sejuani first pick actually was first picked over Silas many times in Korea, but that's what we're going to get in this particular case. Now, what do Cloud9 want to do on red side is something that I'm wondering. I feel like in Korea, you would see a duo lane here. Something like Sivrlux, Zyra Khan would probably be the Zyra Khan is the most obvious one. It could also be, I feel like if you're not taking entire duo lane, it would be Xayah jungler, I think would be the strongest thing to go. I didn't see this draft, to be clear. When it comes to jungle pickaways, like if Sejuani was up, like let's say it was first pick Xayah, Sejuani up, I think Xayah Sejuani is what you would take here 100% of the time. I'm interested to see what happened in this series. I did not see pick ban. So entire duo lane or Xayah plus jungler is kind of what I would heavily expect here. With Aatrox down. Seeing the Gragas hover. We saw Gragas Yasuo first round by Genji against first pick Yuumi. The Yuumi's not up here. The Aurelia's up. Okay, that's not something I thought about. I think Aurelia's fine as a first pick here. I think the potency is lower because the Sejuani's not there. And it was, okay, interesting. So it's Aurelia Gragas. So it's not the Yasuo Gragas that Genji first round. It's Aurelia Gragas. So it's Aurelia taken in the same spot as Aatrox or Silas, the flex spot, which is fine. But they actually just go solo lane jungle here. No duo lane taken. And the reason why you're a little bit surprised, the reason why I say it's going to be first round bot lane so often is what is happening in the meta right now is there's some very strong duo lanes that can be locked in. Zyra Khan, Sivrlux, a lot of Lux lanes, obviously very powerful. Kate Lux, if you want to try and get priority, Sonataric. And so if you don't take at least one piece of your bot lane duo in the first round of red side, TSM will almost always take bot lane duo in that spot. There's a chance they're forced into jungle if they feel like the jungle champion pool's too small. But in Korea, at least, the duo lane is taken at Grieg and Bjergsen's pick. And then Cloud9 only get to pick one champion of their duo. 2 bans go the way of bot lane. And then you just 100% can't answer Zyra Khan with 1 pick and 2 further bans against your picks. So that's why duo lane is getting pushed up the draft priority quite a lot. So that's kind of the cost for Cloud9, is that they're potentially at risk of losing out on duo lane priority. We'll see how TSM approach it, though. Sivrlux here would be a power duo that could take Sivir Nautilus. Okay. Sivir Nautilus is a lane that isn't quite as punishing, and we do see the Yasuo Gragas anyway. So that explains why they first round Gragas. The question is it jungle mid duo or bot lane duo? Now, looking at this draft, I feel like they're showing a lot less kind of flex nature that we saw from Genji. Genji, when they first rounded Yasuo Gragas here at the top 2 picks on red side after a first pick Yuumi, they insta-locked it. It was so high priority for Yasuo Gragas that are a potent duo but aren't first roundable that I sat there and I instantly was like, okay, this is surely bot lane. This has to be a bot lane counter pick. A, because we see a lot of duo lanes locked in, and B, why else would you just blind pick Yasuo, who loses a lot of mid lane matchups? Blind pick Gragas to lose a lot of jungle matchups. It has to be a flex for both. and thus it's probably bot lane for a mine game. In this game, with Sivir not locked in, like Yasuo Gragas can do okay in this matchup, but it doesn't feel like a matchup that hard punishes Sivir Nautilus by any means. The thing about Yasuo Gragas is that you can like just engage on the one person. Like your body slam is going to hit the 80 carry because the Yuumi is leashed. So when the Yuumi's leashed, Yasuo Gragas are always going to find their man, and you just all in, and then you get a free double kill. Because you're most likely, if you're choosing to engage, doing it when they're at your turret, you chase them down, the cat dies, it's cute, but it's dead. In this lane, it's a lot more competitive, so I'm guessing this is just solo lanes and jungle locked in. I don't know, but... And so we're already saying, like, we've got Teamfight, and we've got 2 physical damage dealers. So 2 melee, like a champion. So they already have strong team fight, potential for side lane power, very poor siege is kind of what's already locked in this first round. Thing to mention is that if Sylas has to lane against Yasuo, Yasuo is a really good matchup into Sylas, but top lane Yasuo is all but dead at the moment. So that's something to remember. So if you already saw 2 solo lanes and you knew it was going to be mid lane Sylas, most likely you do feel really good about Yasuo mid lane against Sylas. Jax ban. It's a coverage ban for Aurelia. So they're saying mid lane's Aurelia, top lane Aurelia, mid lane Sylas, kind of what they're screaming. If you're wondering about the bans, Korean teams consider that Akali is the counterpick to Yasuo, so we almost only see Akali when it's an Akali kind of preferential team, so Faker and both mid and top of Sandbox, Summit and Dove really highly value Akali, but otherwise Akali priority has been down a little bit. But it's a really good matchup into Yasuo, and then Jax a really good matchup into Aurelia. So they're kind of counter matchups that have been banned out a bit. BDD also playing it as well. Thank you for pointing that out. No bot laner ostensibly taken, so the Zyra Rakan taken away in a single ban, the Ezreal taken away. Lux is left open. I actually think that's pretty bold to leave Lux open. I think Lux right now is really, really, really powerful. So I guess it's just sneaky off comfort more than just what power level is the strongest champion left open. And it's going to be a Braum lock-in. So they're sticking with knock-up synergies, but they won't be taking the Lux here. So C9's kind of tanking a lot of... To me, this is a very bizarre draft. I don't know if Reaper's still in chat. I'm not calling him out by any means, but this is a draft that does one thing really well. That they're really good at team fighting. You know, like, they're really got a lot of synergy in their knockups. Like, they're really good wombo teamfight com. But so many drafts these days have to have multifaceted things about them. Like, they need priority in 2 lanes and then a way to force team fights. This is a draft that I think in the non-turret play meta makes a lot of sense, right? But I feel like you're taking a lot of kind of L's across the draft to put it together, and then you foam it, and for sure it could just be Exodia and slam team fights, but the trade-offs to get drafts like this seem really heavy. So I'm surprised to see a draft like this in week 3 of the LCS, but it's always much more than meets the eye. It's a lot. Maybe this is the only draft that was winning scrims. Maybe this is personal comfort. Maybe the laners feel like they have an edge on certain matchups that they will get to the team fight phase. There's lots of... It's an easy to execute team fight comp when you are all on the same screen. But my kind of counterpoint to that is how if you just run these champions around and they never get to if you never fall behind, if you're ahead and then the enemy never really gets to contest like they want to, then maybe they just never get to team fight. Or maybe you get the wins in the lanes, and thus by the time it gets to the team fight portion, they're an item behind. So I'm very surprised. The Braum especially, like not Lux. Like to me, Lux, the moment you lock in Lux, you basically win almost every lane as a support. Like you need a real dog 80 carry matchup to lose if you add Lux. Like if Lux Sivir wins almost every matchup, then I think it's a lot about Lux, right? When it comes to the 2v2. And Lux's flexibility is just obscene. She's so strong right now. As an aside, I won't have a time to talk about it because she's not in the game. I really like Lux's support playstyle right now with Shield Max and running around. This is me talking, not as a PapaSmithy Oracle of League of Legends, but just as a player. Like, I always have disliked Lux as a champion because she was... If you hit all your abilities, you blow someone up. If you miss one of them or one of them's flash, you don't do enough damage, and that's all you've got in your kit. So Lux support comes in, I'm like, ah. Lux mid lane, I'm like, ah. But I actually really like running around bending skill shot shields and using different support item actives on Lux. So I've had a lot of fun on the champion. And I like, oh, is this a Guardian game or an Aftershock game or maybe an Unsealed Spellbook game? You have so many options as WMAX Lux to impact a fight. Your squishiness is relevant but can be subverted. I find her really fun to play, and yet she's always been a super high pick rate champion bursting people. So if they nerf her for support and keep her strong for I guess millions of people that play Lux, I can't really argue. I'm just really appreciating playing Lux support right now. The champion definitely is too strong, though. I don't know how they're going to trim power. My guess is they trim utility and keep the damage there, because the damage side is fine. It's just the utility side that's too strong. How about Karma? I hate Karma. It sounds like a counterpoint, but any champion that has that much mobility and shielding, it's not fair. She's too fast for her shields. I really hate Karma. And the Karma meta starts tomorrow, guys. I think we're on 9/12. It's gonna... Well, you guys can watch it with me. Back to this draft. Like, you've shown Braum, so... There's still a chance to find a winning lane because Sivir versus many other AD carries can be an advantageous matchups, but how TSM puts together a draft here can be very, very interesting. They could have gone into lane priority. They could have gone into... they could have gone and approached this a lot of different ways. The Poppy wants to follow Aurelia, so this feels like Poppy top lane, Sylas mid, which means the Yasuo is going to get a better lane than first expected. And Gragas opens up a lot of jungle options. As they found another way to zoom into the beard. Like, at this point, like, I had to think for a bit to realize that it was the beard. They love the beard zoom out. But I looked at this and it looked like a bundle of hay, I'm not gonna lie. Until I realized it was the beard. But Skarna, yes, you can go Gragas. I really don't like blind pick Skarna. I think Skarna has a lot of bad matchups, but if Gragas is already locked in, then you know it's not support Gragas because the Braum is there. So the draft actually goes kind of in a very different way at the end. So like my initial expectation here is that C9 is going to have a horror laning phase because they've shown so much, and they have champions that can fall behind in lane. But actually, the end punishment is actually not that severe. They last pick Varus to make it Varus Braum, who I think has a winning matchup against Sivir Nautilus, so they're actually going to have a winning bot. The enemy decides to go Poppy top. So... that means that... Now, the Sylas, again, it should be noted, kind of had two bad matchups. We didn't give it credit for this before, but Aurelia also has a pretty decent matchup into Sylas. I think the Yasuo matchup is better, but... So at the end of the day, maybe TSM had to kind of take a loss somewhere. You now get Poppy to, at times, control Aurelia, but actually it's not as hard a winning matchup as some people think because you don't have as much lane control until... Sunfire Cape is done on the Poppy. And then the Sylas actually does have some struggles against Yasuo all through the laning phase. So laning wise, I think that Cloud9 were able to salvage this draft more than I expected because the bot lane didn't actually end up being kind of as harshly a problem. And TSM are going to opt into team fights themselves. So we ended up with a team fight versus team fight draft. I just didn't see coming. We very rarely see team fight versus team fight in the 2019 meta. Like someone's playing Jace, someone's playing Win Lane. Like you got tank supports on both sides. That's surprising. Don't see that very often. You're seeing tank support, tank jungle, which it feels like both teams are opting into let's fight, which I think suits C9 with the fact that they kind of pigeonholed themselves early, but also makes you wonder about TSM because they're confidently walking into it as well. So this actually just whets my appetite to watch the games more because these could have been very different drafts on both sides, and yet we end up with overlapping identity, which should mean that whichever team starts winning wins the game. These are probably famous last words. I haven't watched the game. I haven't read a breakdown of the game. I don't even know what the champions were. All I know is that Bjergsen played well, apparently. So somehow we've ended up with kind of an old school picked phase, even if the ban phase is a new school one. Interesting. Two friends of the stream coming up. Let's pause for this one. Let's watch it. Both Zix and Reaper have always been very gracious. I've loved talking about the game with both of them. Both super good guys of esports. So highlighting two of the top men of esports. Let's make Cap and Flowers speak a bit quicker. Get to this one. The water gun's a good one. All right, TSM versus C9. When you have identities like this where the game does feel like whichever team starts winning will be able to get through the game, i.e. whoever starts strong will end strong because there's not a lot of comeback mechanics. Like both teams are team fighting teams. I think C9's a bit more synergistic. Like I feel like if they have a vision lead, will definitely kind of run through the game. But TSM have a team fight comp as well. The moment you go Poppy, it's going to be a team fight comp, right? You're not splitting. So level 1 and just how the game starts can have so big an impact when there aren't the comeback mechanics of, yeah, that's cool that your comp does that, but our comp does this, and now it's our time to win. Like, this is a game where the gold lead is honest, rather than the gold lead. Yeah, the enemy team has a 2,000 gold lead, but we know they needed a 5,000 gold lead. That's not this kind of game. The gold lead is a lot more honest in a game like this. TSM. I feel TSM has much more comeback potential here. I think in some ways you're correct in that TSM can be a bit more liberal with how they play the map. They've got like C9 is kind of like a phalanx when they fight, in that Gragas, Yasuo, Braum, Varus are together, and we're gonna fight. And like, if you see them in a dark alley, you kind of have to face check them. Then you're like, oh shit, we're dead. But if you're behind and the enemy has vision of you coming like one by one, actually TSM's comp is a bit more malleable in that case, because they do have kind of targeted engage on the Nautilus. They do have movement speed on the Skarner and the Sivir. They can kind of pick, but they can also just straight up team fight. And they obviously have the flexibility of the Sylas. So because of that, I actually think that you're correct in that case, and that C9's comp can definitely team fight in the late game, but there is the chance that kind of Sivir comes in quickly, Varus from behind like never gets to set up and doesn't get to do damage. So yeah, I'm with you on that. It's not, of course, as severe as some of our kind of like J split comps versus teamfight comps that we very more commonly see, but I think it's a good nuance point. Very shallow vision. No team feeling strong enough to put down deep vision. Level 1s on both sides are pretty strong, so I think that makes sense. All right, so already going to be an advantage in that Licorice is leashing, and it's not a fake leash, so there's no fake leashes happening anywhere on the Rift. Something that I think is underused in North America and Europe, by the way, is the fake leash. Saw some really good fake leashes in LCK this week. Hummer Life's fake leash in game number 1 of their second series was awesome. So real leash tapping top side. So there's going to be more pathing information when Aurelia enters lane second. So TSM is going to have a bit more info. Like, it's pretty clear. Svenskeren is very likely to do full top side clear because we know that, they know that it's a red side start. Skarn is actually just straight up starting Wolves to allow bot lane to get into lane. So TSM's jungler is giving away both the level 6 timing, his natural jungle path. He's giving away any solo advantages to ensure that Sven and Smoothie can get to lane first, which tells you a little bit about kind of what resources Sven and Smoothie are asking. Falling behind Varus Braum sucks, so you get it, but it's Grig giving up things when he could actually be trying to pull off some cheesy stuff here in order to get this going. Licorice and Broken Blade on the Poppy lane. Again, Poppy actually has very little lane control until she finishes kind of like Sunfire Cape and hits level 9. That's where she can like walk in a minion wave, disregard your damage, and like actually puddle the wave with the Q. I think of it as a puddle because it's so short range. When was this ward? I didn't see the ward. So the blue ward times out, and then Yasuo puts down a ward, which I believe does spot that, you know, the Raptor camp is down, so they do get some pathing information on the Skarner here. So that's the benefit of this route that Grig has done, is that he ends at Krugs, which is again to give bot side control around the time that Scuttle is going to spawn. And when he respawns, he can go... so he started here. He did big camp, all the way down. Around 3 minutes, he gets to bot lane for a counter gank and also bot side Scuttle. And then if no one invades his top side, then he can just clear all the way down. And it's actually pretty fast power farming for level 6 because you're going to get your wolf camp to rubber band, and in general your camps 1 by 1 to rubber band. So it's actually a pretty cool route to take as Skarner, but the biggest reason to do it is that you let your bot lane get to lane first, and you're there for the counter gank bot lane. So it's a very bot lane focused route on Skarner. It does give Skarner a role though, because Skarner very often pre-6 can not be counter ganking for anyone and not be getting a scuttle and not be farming that fast. In this case, he actually achieves something, which is he was present for the counter gank bot side. Oh. So this is a really interesting gank. The reason why I say that is we have Predator Jungler versus Predator Jungler in this particular fight. And neither of them have shopped at 3 minutes 30. Now, for the longest time, you would never expect a 3-minute gank. And this is not a 3-minute gank, but you would never expect a gank before the Predator Jungler had backed. Because you don't have a keystone, right? You don't have a keystone, so why would you be ganking, right? Theoretically, you're behind. And obviously, if one person is Predator, the other person doesn't, that's definitely going to be a big disadvantage. Because they're both Predator junglers, and because the meta has been shifting a bit. So we talked about the Humble Life level 1. That was where Predator Skarner 3-minute ganked bot side, because you just never expect a Predator Skarner to be around a lane to gank 3 minutes in because he wouldn't have been able to find a shop timing. Because this is Predator versus Predator, and because more people are being like, well, you'd never expect this gank, this ends up being a 2v2 with both junglers not backing. So I think both junglers here are like, there's no chance that the enemy jungler is here because they're a Predator jungler. But because it's Predator versus Predator, this is very much the full effect of something like the Prisoner's Dilemma, in that both of them are there because what if they weren't there? But Grig is obviously like reaching very far. They never expect there to be. If you don't expect Gragas could ever be here because he's Predator jungler, then because of that, you go for this, right? And you fully engage on it. If you look at the simple facts, you're ganking a Yasuo with Ignite as a teleport Silas. So if any of your spells don't overlap, and Skarner provides so little in these sort of skirmishes, like you're going to lose a lot out. Skarner sees Gragas earlier. Let's get the confirmation. So Skarner did see Gragas. Let's confirm that. I believe here. So Skarner saw Gragas, knew he was bot side, working on the camp here. So that's good confirmation. We do get that vision shown. I believe they do see each other here. Regardless, no expectation at all clearly that there's going to be a counter gank from Grig. And 2v2, they have to like stack their CC. Otherwise, this fight takes a long time. So if you ever consider that Gragas could be there, you don't over pursue, right? You just don't do it. They're playing this 100% as if there's no chance Gragas can be there, and then the Ignite disadvantage takes them out. Like, it's almost impossible to lose this with the Ignite advantage and the fact that, you know, Yasuo is super good at early skirmishes, but this play is a result of not expecting there to be any chance that Gragas is there. And, like, people in chat are saying, of course he could be there. They just saw him. But because they're both Predator junglers, Grig is not making this play as if he thinks there's a chance Skarner is coming mid before Predator. And Svenskeren is reading the play smartly and being there. Like, if you watch Svenskeren's pathing, like, he's in position for a counter gank. So he's reading this play really, really well. They don't see Grig on a ward. And yet, he shadows out of vision the entire time, not spotted even though he has a fat model and is in position to counter gank. It's really well played by the C9 side, and it's TSM just being one level behind of the play here. They basically get next level. Like, that's the thing. It's like, if you look at this play, you should understand that it was unlikely for Svenskeren to be there from Grig's perspective, but it was really smart for Svenskeren to be there from C9's perspective, if you know what I mean. So it's always a trade-off. A lot of good players also require the other team to make a bad play. It's TSM making a standard read and C9 making a next level read. And that's why it's a smart play here. So Grig at least gets to fall back to the path we talked about. Both junglers are back, so both junglers have. So what happens here? I missed this. Top side scuttle. They're walking up. Bjergsen goes for a walk. What does Bjergsen know? Bjergsen pushes out, and he really wants the ward top side because he knows that Svenskeren started red buff, so he's just looking for respawns, and he knows it's very likely that Svenskeren's going to be on top side of the map. So that's why Bjergsen leaves. When did Aurelia leave? Aurelia walks up, is spotted, and then starts going to the river. So it ends up being pretty bold. Topside scuttle, so you know why he's leaving the lane. But this is actually a pretty liberal leaving of the lane from Bjergsen. He walks into ward, and then he's like, wait, scuttle's up, and also they're going to walk up. Who got that one? I actually don't know who got it. That's Greg. Greg got it with the auto. This Scorpion is like for sure working the hardest of most Scorpions pre-6. A lot of skirmishing already around Greg. But as we mentioned, the respawning of the camps in order does mean that he has a level 6 path to farm all the way down, which is a nice fallback thing. Knowing that the Wolves respawn there, if C9 had the ability to pause the game and discuss, they'd be like, wait, Wolves have respawned. He started Wolves. For almost 100% certainty, Greg is going to farm all of his camps in order and do nothing. So if I'm Licorice and Niski at this moment, I can actually walk around in lane and super overextend and never think the Skarner is coming for the next minute and a half. It's very unlikely to see the Wolves respawned in a scenario like that. And that should be enough for them to have actually a lot of information on pathing. So just power farming down, like we mentioned. Varus with a slender lead. He's up 3 minions or so on the bot side. Nothing doing really there. 4 minions. Small lead, but not looking to open up priority here. Braum is one of the few tank supports that can actually establish priority against Sivir after Sivir gets BF sword, because you can actually open with your Unbreakable, stop Sivir from getting the first push, and then your AD carry can push instead. So while it's usually only thought about for like lethal burst damage, you can get lane control against Sivir, which when she has other supports like Lux is doing most of the heavy lifting. When she gets BF sword, she's doing most of the heavy lifting, but just notable that Braum provides a slightly different interaction there. Still waiting. We're still predicting this is going to be a snowball game. So first snowball goes the way of C9. I think they have a lot of map leads right now. But yeah, level 6 lead. Things starting to stabilize up top. How did this happen? No health lead. Stun misses. It's just good trading here. Base stats. Oh, the shop also is definitely... I didn't realize it's Doran's Blade Longsword against Balmy's Cinder and the Cloth Armor. Wow, that's a really big effective item lead for right now. So Aurelia just can't really do much at the moment. The Grasp's trades are also hurting, so yeah, really awkward item timing, I guess. There's the full team ad, so I guess that's fine. That's more than the Aurelia should be losing this early in the lane. It gets worse for Aurelia as time goes on. Nice backing here. If you look to watch the minimap, the Nautilus roam timing here is really nice. It's Skarner 6, Skarner 6. Sorry, Skarner 6, Nautilus 6. Duo invade. That I believe is spotted. At least the Skarner is spotted. I like what TSM's doing here. Like, they had a plan, which was to contest enemy blue. This plan gets them a lot of cascading advantages. On the one hand, it's a low-level blue for Niski to be denied. He doesn't give a hoot about the blue buff on Yasuo. But taking over the blue side jungle actually does a number on Varus Braum's ability to do things like we mentioned. We talked about, hey, after a couple of early AD items, Sivir starts to get lane control. Braum can just use his shield in order to control that. Well, the moment you lose blue side jungle, you're actually a lot less incentivized to use your Unbreakable liberally to get lane pushing leads. You're a lot more likely to let yourself get pushed in because you don't have control of that jungle. And the flow-on effect is that Sivir and Nautilus's laning phase gets more comfortable because you contested the enemy blue. So even though Niski doesn't care about it, the steal away actually is pretty big there. Now it's desynced blue buff timers, so it's something that Svenskeren can return to. There are control wards reverse on top side, but I just like the TSM had a plan. All right. All right. So, same health bars. Let's watch the replay on this one. Licorice has missed a lot of stuns in the laning phase. Puddle hits, second half doesn't hit. Auto. Wall stun, finish him off with ult. Beautiful. Broken Blade even overkills him here and knows exactly how tanky he is. Wow. That was really nicely done by Broken Blade. Gragas Yasuo. Very good at engaging. Damage output in the early game, obviously not fantastic. So if you watch this play, they play it like he's getting caught in the middle of the lane, and you can only make this play if Braum is there for the gank as well. Like if Braum is there and you have 3 people whacking away with multiple stuns, maybe you can kill him under turret, but if he's under turret, you don't have burst range even with Ignite. TSM have just made some high percentage plays in a row, like the invade they made that took the bot lane control back a little bit more comfortably for Sven and Smoothie. Whereas C9 have made some optimistic plays in a row. And now TSM have escaped with double blue buffs and are just in a really comfortable spot getting back into this game. Meanwhile, C9 are kind of at a turning point where they've misfired on a couple of moves in a row. And then something like a solo kill really pushed that over. Jensen in the crowd. Feeling great about that one. Is that Yasuo as well? Am I mistaken there? I think that was Yasuo. I don't watch a lot of NA streams, but I think that was Yasuo. Good, all right. I caught the streamer. That was my hello fellow kids moment if I wasn't able to identify the streamer. All right, we're doing this. Now, we're doing it without Cask. It's still fine. Okay, that's fine. Now, they knew what tools were down for Broken Blade. They make a play top side. He's got no disengage, AoE disengage abilities up. That's well played. Good to see from C9 after they were outclassed by TSM's last 2 map movements. We can watch the bottom side of the map. Skarner in position for a flash ult play. Griga's played super bot side so far this series. They've already made the previous play contest in the blue. Now they're looking for more. So he's going to die. Oh, stasis. No. My first prediction was correct. Was Skarner spotted on his way in? No, he went straight down lane. This is good pathing from the Skarner. But Varus Braum are frustrating to kill. And that's what you see here is they have to use so many resources because flashes are up on C9. Smoothie needs to stasis and then dies to the Q. See what it means for turret plates, though. Sneaky's healthy enough that he might actually be able to ward away turret plates. That's a big moment again. Diving Braum. Well, I mean, that's the only place on the map they could make a play because topside, you couldn't just take Rift Herald under the nose. Speaking of Rift Herald under the nose. They're really messy. So they get the information this is happening, and this is a complicated point to discuss because what should you do here as TSM and C9? C9 got the advantage topside through the smart gank, and they go straight onto the Rift Herald. That's what they should do. They should make a play topside, and they're happy to take a Rift Herald for Cloud Drake trade. That part is fine. TSM say, no, we're going to fight for this, and we're bringing in our Teamfight tanks TP to make it happen. So it starts off, and it's just a 3-for-1. And so it's 3-for-2 to start, but the 3-for-2 for C9 is Yasuo with just the most no items at 12 minutes, Licorice whose ult's down, and Svenskeren who goes out of the pit. So actually it's just a kind of 2 versus 1 at the start. It's burst onto Licorice to begin, and then you get this conundrum where the Rift Herald's resetting, so you're definitely not turning onto the Rift Herald here. Your Yasuo doesn't do a lot of damage. If you re-engage, it is 3v2 initially, but the 3 that are there do very little damage. Svenskeren, a little bit of damage, not a lot. Niski, like we mentioned already, not a lot of damage. And Licorice's ult's down. And you have no backup immediately coming. Sneaky could have teleported at any time during this play, and he was focused on his own lane. The Sivir is backing, but will be coming to join the fight. So you re-engage here, and it seems like it's going to be a big wombo play, but as you can tell, look at health bars. It's like 500 damage for Bjergsen, almost nothing onto the Poppy, and then TP wards start to make this tricky. The moment that the cask goes down, and both Broken Blade and Bjergsen don't die, you see the opposing TP spots that come in. Sven is teleporting to a spot where he will have some semblance of frontline in front of him or a turret to defend to. Meanwhile, Sneaky's teleporting directly onto the fight as Skarner walks up. So you watch Sneaky here. Like, he teleports in, and he just basically instantly dies. They got Poppy. The Poppy ult actually did a lot of help there because it even made Sven's entrance to the fight angle even cleaner. But TSM just a lot smarter because they actually had a lot more work to do, right? They had to teleport into contest late to a 3,000 health Rift Herald. And, you know, a Wombo tool ostensibly was used on them. But their problem solving from here, understanding how strong they are, the fact that Skarner's going to break first, was just way better than C9. So in like the fiery moment here, Sneaky taking his time and not coming in early means that when he comes in late, it makes it really, really awkward. Like, Sneaky teleports first, but he teleports no doubt because he's being called and because like he sees the Yasuo Gragas combo going on. And then TSM just are able to... Oh, I didn't even see the fail flash here. Did you guys see the whoopsie from Svenskeren? Tries to flash body slam, but it just doesn't happen. They just get routed. They're going to lose everything here. In a tale of team fights, TSM outplayed them around that team fight. And then they're going to get the Rift Herald and they get the kills. And we already talked about how comeback mechanics in this are not going to be huge. We're not really leaning on comeback mechanics just yet. But, you know, the Goldie's not like in an awful state just yet. But so much happened after that play in bot lane that it becomes already difficult. He probably would have died already. He's flashing first. I don't think he's fail flashing over the wall. I think it's a flash body slam because you can't body slam first because then you just get the body slam interrupted. So he's just trying to cover the most distance, but it ends up just being a very, you know, inopportune flash, let's say. So where are we at now? another reset where Yasuo still doesn't have first item. Yasuo's effective items down on the opponent is really big. It's proto belt and more versus half of a shiv, you know? Like, And now if you look at the items, and Aurelia is working on her items to be relevant, but we already talked about Sunfire, Kate, and Ninja Tabi. Poppy's going to be standing up well and can always be a more reliable team fighter. Silas ahead in items, Sivir's way ahead in items. Item discrepancy here when it's team fight versus team fight means that if there's always an objective up and TSM get there, C9 kind of has to seed it, otherwise they lose out. All right, C9 gets there first. TSM isn't in position to contest. Good to take objectives where you can. Another bot lane play. Credit to Broken Blade for navigating the awkward early levels, getting a solo kill, and then needing no resources and allowing Grig, who from his jungle start was never coming top anyway, to keep going bot lane. Like, Grig is babying Sven and Smoothie's kind of tough 2v2 from minute 1, while Broken Blade may not be winning in CS, but obviously has had the better of the top side. Plus, and that's been enough to overcome, like, Grig making kind of a rookie mistake around mid lane when he made the point that was count against. So, like, Broken Blade's strength this game is the reason that all the other parts of the map can be attacked by TSM. Let's Phantom Dancer. Saw this once in Korea recently. Big trade-off in terms of damage, but maybe it's a way to skip out on something like the QSS and just have Phantom Dancer for a defensive utility. It's almost always Shiv, because PD was direct nerf for Yasuo. He no longer gets movement speed when close to an enemy. He actually has to hit the enemy to get the movement speed he used to get because of proximity. Yeah, very defensive Yasuo build. That is such a big gold lead too. So take away the kill gold, take away 300 of it. It's still, from not just kills, a 1200 gold lead for Sven in this game. That's 1 out of turret, 1 kill, and then just so much extra invested into bot side. And it's very roundabout, and it's a point that I think is lost on a lot of people. But Grig being freed to play bot side and play into invading enemy blue and just dive bot side again and again was freed because of Broken Blade top lane. And it does end up kind of biting C9 that they showed both their solo lanes, because yes, the Poppy's going better than expected against Aurelia earlier than expected, but it all happened in a time where like, Poppy was able to do it self-sufficiently. And that's the thing here that has allowed Sven to have this. Like, this is not Sven and Smoothie playing better than Sneaky and Zazo at all. It's a game plan from TSM around bot side being vindicated by Broken Blade overperforming on top side. And some very good team plays around team fights, right? Where they were just a little bit more on point than C9, as we noted. GP advantage for TSM. Coming back to the overlapping teamfight goals and identities of the team, should be noted that Bjergsen going teleport and Nissi going ignite does give TSM another way to win the game. TP advantage can get them a lot of free objectives on the side. So if you invest in less combat summoners and you're winning the combat, the payoff is in map play, specifically post 20 minutes when Baron is up. So TSM are winning, and the payoff is delayed on how much they're winning by. So they're winning by more than it looks like. Ability to play the map advantage. Sven pushes down bot side. Oh. Oh, you hate to see it. So they see Sven. They know that Bjergsen's walking down. So they just want to get a free kill on Smoothie super fast. So no summoners used by C9. Flash down on Smoothie. No way to punish it. Like, this is a game where if you hadn't seen Gragas Yasuo before, you're like, huh, there's a whiff. There was the ult in mid lane that didn't kill anyone. There was the ult in the teamfight on top side where they weren't teleporting first, so they didn't have enough damage to kill what was the best of the wombos. Like, this is Gragas Yasuo feeling very balanced, even though it's a combo that's always been potent, that's been shown to be potent in pro games recently. I think it's largely because, you know, some of it's been user error, and some of it's been just the items down on Niski means that when they are using the Yasuo Gragas, they've been isolated from the rest of the team. Like, Yasuo Gragas, when they're turret diving you, like if you're trying to, you know, defend at your turret and then Yasuo Gragas rolls into top lane to dive Broken Blade, difficult to do on a Poppy, but you get what I mean, or bot side onto the Sivir Nautilus, can be so powerful. But because top lane lost solo and bot lane's being camped, Svenskeren and Niski have kind of just really only had Bjergsen to try to kill, and it's Silas who went early armor, finished Azonias, and has, you know, quite a lot of mobility to disengage. So it just feels like Yasuo Gragas have got nothing done at all in this game. And playing sidelines has been kind of a cool way for TSM to play around what can be a really powerful mid-game combo. 2k gold lead though, so again, means that TSM's knives are sharper for the eventual knife fight, but it isn't the end of the world by any means for C9. Man, the lead through bot lane, those Ven is so big. Essence Reaver BF Sword is instant clear waves with WQ, assuming you're leveling at a normal pace, and the Phantom Dancer means I can just actually try to walk into the middle of the team fight and between Phantom Dancer and Stopwatch not be burst by anyone. So right now we start to see where items in teamfight versus teamfight can be relevant. This item point for Sivir is I don't give a shit about what the enemy is. I'm going to fight and always cancel all my autos with ricochets and do big damage. Meanwhile, Sneaky doesn't even have the I'm going to warm up with Rageblade build that you kind of need to take time before the fight starts in order to do max damage. And the Rageblade took a huge nerf, right? You look at the enemy team and it's a low value team to build Wit's End against, so it's almost certainly going to be Rageblade. And this is where, you know, we were talking about some of the small areas where TSM's Teamfight Comp does it better. When you have a mobility advantage and an item advantage, and Sneaky can't even just hit some minions and then just try to free auto with Rageblade, oh boy, it's hard to fight. So it goes back to our original analysis of one team would be way better at teamfighting than the other, but it's actually happening kind of earlier than we thought with a smaller gold lead than you would have imagined would be significant. Like, it's only 2,000 gold. So Licorice is now staring down Ninja Tabi Iceborne Gauntlet Sunfire Cape. I think it's 6 items, maybe 5 items. Aurelia can maybe get back into the side lane, but for a long, long time, and games don't go long enough for top laners to get that many items, Poppy just wins trades now. Pretty hard. You just add a Bramble Vest on top, and you're basically got no worries at all. Yeah, not even that Licorice has any lifesteal. TSM puts up their vision, and now we don't even have vision splitting, right? Like, TSM is happy to leave some of their bot side vision that got them all of their leads around the bot lane with the Skarner cap and just transfer it all to Baron vision because we're at 22 minutes. So TSM has vision wherever they want it to be. and C9 is already super on the back foot. Like if you look at where the minion waves are being picked up, Yasuo picked up a minion wave in the inner turret. Varus is waiting for a minion wave to be pushed into his inner turret, and Irelia is at the inner turret. So TSM actually control basically, you know, 2/3 of the map and then some at the moment. And already, now if your next Gragas Yasuo combo doesn't work and we still don't have big damage items behind it, you're in a lot of trouble. And moments like this will happen. Moments like this can happen. So Licorice just fights Bjergsen because Irelia actually is able to answer Sylas really well. We talked in the champ select about how Sylas has 2 poor 1v1 side lane matchups, but TSM has huge map control, and Licorice just ends up being disconnected. And we've seen Licorice actually uncharacteristically be a bit disconnected in some of their losses. I felt the same way about one of their previous losses where he was fighting, but it felt like in my review last week, you know, it felt like he was a bit disconnected from his team there as well. So a little bit conspicuous to see. Like this is a play where Licorice can for sure solo kill Bjergsen, except even with control ward, he's against Predator jungler, Sivir. Like you can't kill Bjergsen fast enough, and your allies will always be there second. So I don't finger wave at Licorice. Like he's trying to find a way to like get his team back into the game, and in the world where his team can like interrupt the recalls as if it was a backdoor, he can solo kill, but it's a low percentage play to make, and if he feels like that's the best play for C9 to make there, that tells you kind of a worrying thing about the game state right now. Yeah, it's definitely a troubling one. C9 try to defend the little they have. This is going to be a Gragas bowling game, isn't it? In case you guys are wondering, Gragas bowling is when AP jungle Gragas on the red side sits basically around this control ward, isn't strong enough to get into the river, and just puts down Q after Q after Q to check the Baron, as if he's a Lux or something with Lucian Singularity. Sad AP Gragas bowling is something that happens when the Gragas team falls behind. But if Gragas ever scouted and the surprise factor of Yasuo Gragas is over, oh boy, you just got nothing going on. This kill will take so long. Nisqy going for the build we saw from Faker. He went the Phantom Dancer Bloodthirster build. It's a build that Dade used to go in the past, many, many moons ago in 2014. It's kind of the, I want a sustained fight as Yasuo, but I'm not going to be, I can't be that, you can't run Bloodthirster Phantom Dancer Yasuo with like a tank top. Now he has a damage top laner, so I think it's actually fine in this case, but obviously your damage output compared to Shiv IE is way lower. Like you don't have 100% crit in this build, and almost every Yasuo build is built around 100% crit. And people talking about Bork. I think this build was mostly just from analysts seeing that Faker did it, and I think if the game's even, like if your Varus is ahead of the Sivir, I think it's actually fine to go Bloodthirster because Yasuo just never stops like running around and pressing Q on people. Like it's very hard to kill him, so his damage output in a short amount of time is way lower, but he lives long enough to do more damage over time, and your Irelia and Varus doing the heavy lifting. So I think blind to what the enemy team has become this game, I actually have no problems with Nisqy going the Bloodthirster build here, but because they're behind, it makes the build look way worse. This control ward gets so much value. Yeah, nicely played. This is not Bjergsen having like next level a read. He obviously keeps his mind open. There's the possibility, and the control ward just means that TSM can start Baron. So good call. Let's see when they started hitting Baron. When did they start hitting Baron? They started hitting Baron the moment the Varus went over. Go read. They can tank Baron forever, so let's talk about their Baron here. I always like to review Barons. Their Baron tanking is S+. They have a Nautilus, Cinderhulk, Skarner with Randuins, and a Poppy. So S+, Baron tanking. Their Baron speed is actually not outrageous, but it's faster than you would expect with the champions on the screen because Sivir is so goddamn huge. 3 item already. In this point in the game, an item ahead of the enemy AD carry. Their Baron turn is actually really good because Nautilus always gets his man. Poppy and Skarner always also great in the turn with Sivir. So it's kind of like S+, B+ for Baron speed, and then Baron turn is like A+. So definitely a very viable Baron team. Let's watch the replay here. So, the Wombo. They stay on the Baron. They're in formation. I actually would love to click on someone else and see how many Baron stacks there are on other people's. 2 on the Sivir, who's obviously far away. So, Poppy comes in. Gets rid of only Braum, and they try to engage on just frontline. Let's watch this play as it plays out. So this is a 4v5, right? Because Zazel's not there yet. How does this work? Let me watch the replay here. So any team fight here, Sven just free autos, and it's almost impossible to see them lose because of how strong their frontline is. Sven walks in, auto attack, spell shield used. Sven gets knocked out as the damage is done on the rest of the members. So he's just doing damage. But actually Sneaky is able to do way more damage. That's really interesting here. So they actually find a kind of conga line here where Sneaky gets the free hit and the Yasuo Gragas zone control as if it's an AP Cannon ultimate into Zazel coming in and just, he flashes in just to stick the door in Sven's face. Really interesting fight here. And Bjergsen still ends up with a triple kill. But like this was like a very stacked fight for C9 to lose, and TSM actually loses the fight. Let's watch it again. Let's watch Bjergsen. He comes in. So I was watching the top side here, so we get to watch it again from Bjergsen's perspective. He goes into stasis. What is he stasising? Let's watch when he uses stasis. He doesn't want to... Okay, he stasis because Sneaky is fully charged under no threat with all stacks of Rageblade. So Sneaky would just kill him, you know, basically by accident. He has no frontline left and no damage behind him. Let's watch Bjergsen on the back end. Oh. That was so close to him dying and not taking down the last 2 members. But I think my main takeaway from this team fight is with Baron being started by TSM, you're on the Baron. What is the way C9 win a fight? They're an item down on their AD carry. They're a frontline down because the enemy has a much stronger frontline, right? We're talking Poppy, Nautilus, Silas can brawl, Skarner's a frontliner. Like the frontline advantage for TSM is huge, and the AD carry advantage is huge. So all they have is Yasuo Gragas. They really have nothing else going for them. Or just pure outplay. So C9 are tasked with find a way for Sneaky to do more damage than Sivir, which should almost always be impossible. It's IE, PD, frontline Sivir build. But as the fight goes, the Gragas Yasuo gets a lot of value. The fact that Sven wasn't knocked up, but he ends up displaced at the start of it before the ult is taken is relevant because Sven does insanely less damage than you would expect. Someone in chat saying, I think Zeyzal should have stayed with Bjergsen to try to stop him. Like, Bjergsen super overperforms getting the triple kill on the bottom side. And if he wasn't, like, one extra ability doesn't go down, it's only one kill and he dies. The last double kill was like a last explosion. I think Zeyzal's role, when he makes the decision, is correct. Like, I think his role is correct to flash in an E. So I actually like the move that he makes. And yet, it only ends up being 4 for 3. Now, C9 don't deserve more than a 4 for 3 with how far behind they were in this one. Let's talk about Zeyzal, because people are asking about Zeyzal's role here. Zeyzal comes in late. He's been knocked out, right? So what can he do? He's coming in late. At this point in the fight, like, Bjergsen's about to go into stasis. Sven is 3 items. Still Phantom Dancer available. Still really powerful. And Zeyzal walks in. Finds someone to taxi onto, which is sneaky. Like, look at his options. His options are, if I flash forward, Sven does no damage with 3 items, and we've got 3 people to kill a half-health Sylas. Or, I'm going to peel and kill this damn Sylas. So I actually think he makes the complete correct call. I would make that call also. I mean, I'm not a fantastic player by any means, but when I'm thinking about it in terms of like warfare and like what is the best use of my chess piece, I feel like Zeyzal's move to start is correct. The argument is, should he have cut it back afterwards? I think just zoning Sven out is fine, but like, watch what happens here. Watch how close this is. Like, how much does Bjergsen overkill the backline by? Let's watch and learn together. This is just my opinion, right? So Nisqy flashes in. Like, it looks like maximum 1 person. Like, you know Nisqy's dead here. If you tell me a second person's going to die, I'm like, I guess that could happen. But 3 people dying in this spot? But I think Bjergsen just gets the perfect connection with all his spells while everyone's standing on top of each other and ends up with 3 kills there. And I think Zeyzal still makes the right move. So I'm gonna stick with my original analysis, but I respect anyone who feels like Zeyzal misplayed this. I just don't see it. Someone was talking about the 4-man stun. Let's watch for that one. Are we impressed by it? I think it's hard to be impressed because so much of the work was done by the Yasuo before, but it is still a thing of beauty, right? So Bjergsen salvages what could have been a bigger win for C9, in my opinion, with how many kills he got on the back end. Bjergsen said Freak said that Bjergsen had 5 HP. Like, I'm not surprised. There was 4 people there. Let's watch it at normal speed to understand just how good Bjergsen's play is. He zones perfectly and the stasis is good. The back end here with the brawling, I mean, it's really well played by Bjergsen, but I find it hard to like tell you how good a Sylas play that is because so much of it is all my abilities were back off cooldown and the enemy's clumped and I hit everything on everyone. Like, Bjergsen for sure played excellently, but I can't like rate that Bjergsen play compared to Bjergsen versus C9 last time, where I think like Bjergsen like legit pulled off flanks that only he saw to get them back in their reverse sweep over Cloud9. He played that fight good, but I didn't like lose my mind over Bjergsen's play there. It was just good play from Bjergsen, in my opinion. All right, so TSM back on the Baron. What's down? Nautilus ult and Poppy ult and Skarner ult should basically be up, but they're not quite up. Glacial Fish is definitely down, and so is Aurelia ult. Let's watch this play here. Getting picks here. It's nice. TSM's Baron turn is really good, right? We talked about the capability here. But C9 are making this game so unpredictable. It's cool. Bjergsen didn't die here. That flash value is insane on the bottom half. I don't know how Bjergsen didn't die there. So while we rated TSM's turn really highly, Bjergsen's patrolling. And with him patrolling, they do actually get a lot of value out of Gragas Yasuo. And it's another fight where Sneaky's able to free auto. Like, think about how many fights TSM's mobility and targeted CC means that Sneaky never does damage. Like, that's a comp here where... It's a comp where it feels like Sneaky's no damage potential should be, like, really likely. And Sivir's damage potential is very, very high. So, like, it's very unlikely Sivir will be outperformed in team fights by Sneaky. But because of how C9's just taking closest target here and bringing TSM to them, it's a second fight where everything is not used on Sneaky and he's able to free auto. Like, it's not like he's, like, doing insane damage in this fight, but the fact that he's out-damaging a Sivir and they're keeping information, the phalanx we talked about from C9, that they're actually turning some of these Baron baits really, really well. That's Sneaky Mr. Q. You're right on that one. Then Bjergsen would have died. So we back away. Items starting to be finished. Still 4 items to 3 when it comes to 80 carries, but the Hurricane is there. I actually don't mind the Hurricane in this game. Like, it feels so unrealistic that this would be a Hurricane game, but with how the fights have been fought, I think Sneaky looks at it and says, well, I've been able to backline really, really well in this game so far, and I've been able to stay free. Good point in the chat about Windwall and Unbreakable, and they do frustrate Sivir. But still, I believe, given the amount of threat on Tavares, it should never be still as one-sided in terms of teamfight damage that we've seen in these particular fights. Like, I just think that TSM have put less kind of work into just keeping Varus zoned. Now, you could argue that Yasuo is brawling, Aurelia is brawling. It's not that easy, but from my eyes, I'm surprised with how much Varus overperformed based on expectation. All right, so Baron Vision spotted. TP advantage here, so they have to start the Baron. They don't have any vision of the Baron health here, but they know that C9's not serious about it. Okay, TSM just playing the map solid, smartly. First time they haven't been baiting the Baron, so I like their map fundamentals are still strong. We talked about how if there was ever a TP disadvantage, the Ignite from Yasuo would present a problem, and that's what we're seeing. It's very hard for C9 to keep control of the pit because of that. Again, we talked about how the combat summoner in the laning phase, if it doesn't get you the kills, comes back to haunt you late. Like, these are the exact scenarios where C9 kind of have to play the map a bit differently because they don't have the same options. 100% crit Sivir. Smoothie having to kill that control, it's so funny because the Nautilus anchor attack speed is so slow. Niski not having IE hurts a lot here. If you go the Bloodthirster build and you're this slowed down, you really do start to feel it. At least he's back to 100% crit though. Wait, is that 80% crit? 80% crit. No, 90% crit. Because 25% on Phantom Dancer and 20% from Quick agility. I got that, chat. I didn't need a spoiler on that one. I worked it out. Waves pushing against C9, understandably. How'd this one go? So C9 have Gragas clearing the scuttle as 4 people are in mid. That part's fine. No deep vision. They don't know where Silas is, but he was last seen moving away. Broken Blade just takes a slam because you can see it. It's on Zeyzal, who doesn't have QSS. Sven can do so much damage here still. 100% crit. Funny how in this Teamfight versus Teamfight comps, the presenting moment that gets TSM the front-to-back Teamfight that's not a sum of the Yasuo Gragas CC or... Like, the last 3 fights have been Yasuo Gragas in the Baron pit where they fought around, and then, we talked about how Sven had to flash defensively, and then the door was in his face. And then the next fight was Yasuo Gragas being used onto the Silas, and then the fight being an awkward spot where the Varus comes in. Broken Blade just looks at the enemy team. Gragas is not there, doesn't have QSS, can't go on him. Aurelia is... is at the back, and he just sees an angle on Niski and knows he can go in. And when you're as tanky as a Poppy, you can try things. Like, he's for sure not hard committing to a 5v5. He's just saying, let's try this wall slam onto Zeyzal and see what happens, because we have Skarner walking up. And the clear call here is, what is so big? So as you watch it, Broken Blade sees someone without QSS, gets the slam on them. They basically take down Zeyzal initially. Notice Gragas and Yasuo ults have not been used there because Gragas is not there. So Niski can't go in to counter, kind of initiate the fight and make it about free autoing from Sneaky. So Sneaky's channeling his Q and then gets just hit out. Like, Broken Blade's stunned to get the first pick. Zeyzal's not dead yet, but obviously going to go down soon. And then knocking away the Varus means that still at this point, there's been very little value. The Gragas Yasuo ult this time is just to kill Greg. Let's watch Sven's positioning here when the Gragas... So it's just not in range of it. So the first kill comes in, they get the armor penetration, but literally the fact that Sneaky's not there means that during this... Like, this phase looks very even, right? Like, watch from here. From here on, from this phase onwards, if Sneaky's there auto-attacking, there's a real chance that C9 can come back. Like, Gragas' health bar is high, Niski's health bar is actually pretty healthy as well. But as the fight resets multiple times, they're able to reset into front-to-back TSM and get just auto-attacks out of Sven. And here's the 100% Sivir kills that we were kind of predicting for so long, that only happened because Broken Blade both starts the fight and resets the fight to the advantage of their team. Doesn't use E. Like, Niski's looking so tasty, but knowing ranges, I believe at this moment, he can be wall slammed. But then at this moment, he probably can't be. But he has QSS, right? Even though Niski was looking so tasty, he didn't take wall slam Yasuo. He took wall slam the Braum, because then Braum's out of the fight from the start, which was the correct decision. Teamfight tank decision-making for Broken Blade is something to now compliment him for. And then he is, probably aiming for both Zeyzal and Sneaky, and he just pops Sneaky out of the fight, which means that Sven can just free auto, right? This is the first fight we've seen in quite a while where Sven does more damage than the enemy AD carry. So finally can play to his item lead. They clean it up, and I assume the game just ends from here, right? 40 seconds, so they're going to win the game here. It's 4-item silver. Did not being a 6-item silver 400 CS win condition. There you go. This actually ended up being a really interesting game to review. There was a lot of things that happened in this game. My main takeaways or learning points from this game was the Svenskeren early pathing. Like, he was revealed when he was getting the leash. They knew he started top side, and then he was revealed again bot side. But knowing to be there for a counter gank, and kind of baiting Grig into a bad spot in a Predator versus Predator jungle matchup when neither jungler had backed was really smart from Svenskeren. I really like to see that. I think TSM's plan worked because Broken Blade was able to get the solo kill and do better in top lane earlier than you might have imagined. A lot of Korean top laners I've pushed a lot on. Why no Poppy? Why no Poppy? Because I think this champion is good, and there are matchups like Aurelia where Poppy controls, and they say even the good matchups, Poppy can lose, especially early, because her kit is a little bit more limited until she can kind of shrug off some damage trades and like look for the stun, have Balmy Cinder and a Chain Vest towards Sunfire Cape. So the fact that he was able to win as early as he did and never need resources topside on the Poppy isn't just Poppy versus Aurelia. It's skill expression from both sides, getting a bigger lead top with no resources than you could ever imagine, while camping bot lane made the Varus Braum actually fall behind a lot. We saw about 1,800 gold lead for Sven with 2 kills when Sneaky had 1 kill. And that was largely because they came and invaded the jungle. Then they came and camped bot lane. They took the turret. They could invest everything bot side while top side was winning. And mid lane was under pressure, but Sylas is slippery enough to get out. So I think Broken Blade would be my MVP for this game. I think a lot of people come away from it complimenting Bjergsen. I thought he team fought really well. Maybe maybe my eyes were always drawn away from where he was, but this didn't feel to me the level of the Bjergsen carry that the, Akali game in the TSM versus C9 reverse sweep in the semifinals was. But it felt like Bjergsen on point after being, kind of a little bit iffy for the opening of summer season. So I think it was a welcome return to form for Bjergsen by any means. I think he played Sylas well, but I didn't see like a next level Sylas game from Bjergsen here. I thought Broken Blade was super good in this game. So he would be my shout out for play. And I think overall TSM were very solid, and they closed out the game in a very methodical way from ahead. And I know that's a dirty word for some people with the meta where it is, but they made the game around Baron, and C9, while contesting Baron, like surprised them a few times. But you saw the first time like they could actually make a teleport lead work. They went bot side and got extra objectives. C9 couldn't get anything in return. And then finally, kind of a chance pick by Broken Blade where he got the right wall slam onto Braum, slid everything into place. But you can only slide into place like that when you've done all the hard work earlier. Like Sven stayed an item ahead. The game plan thoroughly worked. So I think it's just really good game plan from TSM that, wasn't plain sailing, but they largely carried it over the line. Meanwhile, from a C9 perspective, I was definitely surprised by the first 4 picks of their draft. And it was more often than not, like the first Yasuo Gragas combo that impressed us was around the Baron. A lot of the early ones left a bit to be desired. So when TSM was playing top bot, C9 were trying to get kills in mid lane as Yasuo Gragas against Sylas, and that didn't look great. So I think if you're going to pick the Yasuo Gragas, you have to, and the enemy's going to play side lanes, you have to spread the lead as a duo a lot more proactively than we were seeing C9 do. So if you're going to go for this draft where you're like, by the way, we're early at Yasuo solo lanes in the first round, by the way, we're going Braum rather than a range support like the Lux, you need to be, if you have a fulcrum of power, which is Yasuo Gragas, use it and use it well. But instead, they used it pretty liberally, but they didn't use it that well. And unfortunately, that meant that by the end, TSM's generally good play for the first 25 minutes and C9's kind of average play. I think TSM kind of paid it forward and were able to finish pretty confidently in the end. So that's my VOD review here. I'm going to answer one question before I take a short break. Would you say Grig played well? I think Grig in this game, I find it very hard to know what he was in charge of. He started Wolf Camp and made it pretty clear that he was going to path exclusively around bot lane. And then if you're just losing in other areas and you keep going bot lane, you look kind of sad, right? Like he was very likely to be the Skarner chilling in the second brush, being like, can we fight, guys? Can we fight? Like kind of waiting for a flash Skarner ult if top lane wasn't winning. But with top lane winning, Grig kind of stuck to the game plan. He seemed very practiced, and he played a very standard game. But my impression is that a lot of what he was doing was what the laners were telling him to do, rather than he was making any next level plays. Like the only next level play attempt I saw was trying to 3-minute 30 gank with no boots on Predator, and he got well read by Svenskeren. So I actually, personally, just from the outside, wouldn't take too much from Grig's performance here. He didn't do anything bad, but I don't think he did anything particularly good either. Anyways, I'm going to call it for my Game 1 VOD review. That was TSM versus C9. Fun game. Definitely worth VOD reviewing. A lot to learn from there. Going to take a short break. I'm going to have a little bit of dinner. And I'm going to come back with our second review of the night. It is going to be... If you guys think the LEC game that ends the night is a fiesta, Africa Kingzone Game 1 was kill a minute as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun one. So thank you very much for watching game number 1. We'll be back very shortly.